It was a warm Thursday afternoon, the kind where the sun hung lazily in the sky and people moved just a bit slower through the day. Naomi had just finished her shift at the hospital and decided to stop by a high-end boutique on her way home. She didn't usually shop at places like this, too pricey, and frankly, the vibe was always off. But she'd been working hard lately and wanted to treat herself. Plus, she had her eye on a bag she'd seen in the window a week ago. As soon as she stepped inside, though, the energy shifted. The sound of her heels on the marble floors seemed to echo louder than it should have. There were two salespeople behind the counter, both women, one with a sleek ponytail, the other wearing too much perfume. Their smiles quickly faded into suspicious glances the moment Naomi walked in. "Can I help you with something?" the one with the ponytail asked, her tone as flat as a tire. "Yeah," Naomi replied, keeping her voice steady. She wasn't going to let their attitude get to her. "I'm looking for a handbag I saw last week." The woman raised an eyebrow and looked her up and down, taking in Naomi's scrubs and the small, simple bag she was carrying. "Those bags are expensive. Maybe you're looking for something a bit more affordable." Naomi's heart sank a little, but she smiled politely. "No, I know which one I want. It's the black leather tote in the window." The saleswoman sighed as if Naomi had asked her to carry a mountain on her back. "I'll get it, but just so you know, that one is over $1,000. Naomi nodded, unfazed. "That's fine." The other saleswoman, the one with too much perfume, let out a small laugh like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Sure you don't want to try something else? Maybe something on sale?" she asked, her words dripping with condescension. At this point, Naomi could feel the heat rising in her chest. She dealt with this kind of thing her whole life, people assuming she couldn't afford nice things just because of the color of her skin. But today, after a long week of dealing with stressful patients and a boss who never seemed satisfied, it was the last straw. "No," she said firmly, her voice steady but sharp. "I'd like the bag I asked for." The ponytail lady shot her coworker a look, and for a moment it was like they were silently laughing at Naomi. She could feel their eyes on her, judging her, and she hated that familiar feeling of being othered. "Fine," the woman said, walking away toward the window display. Naomi stood there, hands clenched into fists, trying to calm herself down. She wasn't going to let them get to her. But man, it was hard not to. As she waited, a man walked into the store. He was tall, well-dressed, and had an air of confidence that seemed to command attention. The moment he stepped in, the two saleswomen perked up like flowers turning toward the sun. "Good afternoon, sir," the perfume lady chirped, flashing him a dazzling smile. "Can I help you with anything?" Naomi rolled her eyes. Of course, now they wanted to act professional. The man glanced at Naomi and then at the saleswoman. "Actually, I'd like to see the same bag she's looking at," he said, nodding toward Naomi. The saleswoman blinked, surprised. "Oh, really? You're interested in the same bag?" Her tone had completely changed. She sounded sweet and eager now. "Yes," the man said firmly, "and I'd like to see how you treat your customers too." Both saleswomen looked confused, but Naomi knew exactly what was going on. This guy was about to give them a reality check, and it couldn't have come at a better time. The woman with the ponytail returned with the bag and held it out to Naomi, but her attitude was still as cold as ice. "Here you go," she said, as if handing over the Holy Grail. Before Naomi could reach for it, the man stepped forward and gently took the bag from the saleswoman's hands. "Actually, I'll take this one," he said, examining it carefully. Then, without missing a beat, he turned to Naomi. "What do you think? Does it suit me?" Naomi let out a small laugh, realizing he was playing along. "I don't know. It might clash with your shoes." The man chuckled and nodded. "Yeah, you're probably right. It looks better on you." He handed the bag to Naomi with a smile. The two saleswomen stood there, frozen, their confusion slowly morphing into embarrassment. "Sir?" the perfume lady stammered. "Are you sure? We have plenty of other bags that might—" "No," he interrupted, his tone serious now. "I'm quite sure. And I'm also sure that the way you've been treating this lady is unacceptable." Both saleswomen exchanged nervous glances. "I'm sorry, but—" the ponytail lady started, but the man held up his hand. "Don't apologize to me," he said. "Apologize to her." Naomi felt a wave of satisfaction wash over her. She hadn't asked for this man to step in, but it felt good to finally see someone hold these people accountable. The saleswomen turned to Naomi, their faces flushed with embarrassment. "We're sorry," they mumbled, barely making eye contact. Naomi tilted her head, watching them squirm. "For what?" There was a pause, and the perfume lady finally spoke up. "For assuming you couldn't afford the bag. That was wrong of us." Naomi nodded. "Yeah, it was." The man smiled at Naomi and then turned back to the saleswomen. "I'll take my business elsewhere," he said, his voice cold now, "and I'll make sure my friends do the same." With that, he turned and walked out of the store, leaving the saleswomen standing there, their faces pale and their confidence shattered. Naomi looked down at the bag in her hands. She could buy it if she wanted to, but at this point, it wasn't about the bag anymore. She set it down on the counter and gave the saleswomen one last look before turning on her heel and walking out of the store, her head held high. As she stepped out into the warm afternoon sun, she felt a sense of pride swelling in her chest. She didn't need to say anything to those women. They'd already learned their lesson, and in the end, that was worth more than any designer handbag could ever be. Naomi walked down the street, the afternoon sun casting long shadows on the pavement. She felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted from her chest. As she made her way back to her car, she couldn't stop thinking about the man who had stood up for her. In a world where she was often left to defend herself, it was refreshing to see someone else speak out against injustice. She reached her car and paused for a moment, leaning against the door. She wasn't angry anymore, just reflective. She'd been through this kind of thing too many times to count, but every time, it hit just a little bit harder. Still, this time was different. This time, she had left with her dignity intact, and that was more valuable than any luxury item. As she sat in her car, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her best friend, Carla. "Carla, how was your shopping trip, girl? Get anything nice?" Naomi chuckled and quickly typed back. "Naomi, girl, you won't believe the nonsense I just went through. But don't worry, I got a win in the end. I'll tell you all about it later." She put her phone down and started the car, feeling a sense of satisfaction she hadn't expected. Sometimes life threw challenges at you, but today she had come out on top, stronger, prouder, and more sure of who she was. As she drove home, Naomi knew that this was just one of many battles she'd face. But it didn't scare her anymore. She had learned something valuable today. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Her worth wasn't determined by the judgments of others. She knew who she was, and that was enough. And as for those saleswomen, well, they'd remember her for a long time. Maybe next time they'd think twice before making assumptions. Naomi smiled to herself, turning up the music as she cruised down the highway, knowing that tomorrow was a new day, and she was ready for it. Naomi drove off, feeling empowered and unbothered by the events at the store. She knew her worth, and no one's judgment could take that from her. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content like this. See you in the next video.